How did I end up this way? My life has boiled down to me sitting in this fucking cubicle for 8 hours a day eating and sleeping. I sure as hell didn't grow up thinking, boy, I'd sure like to spend the rest of my life filing acquisitions for some soul-draining corporation. I mean, I make good money, sure, but I don't even feel like a human anymore. It's like I'm going through the motions. I have no kids, no girlfriend, no family that actually wants anything to do with me. I'm completely alone. I need some adventure in my life again, some excitement. Fuck, anything is better than what I'm doing right now. I got home and started thinking about what I could do to make my life a bit more fun. I went through the usual ideas of a vacation, moving to a new city, maybe even a new car, yet they all fell short. I needed something really fucking crazy to go down. I started fucking around on the deep web looking at all the illegal shit that they have to offer, and then I saw an ad that said, "Have a problem in your life? Hire one of our cleaners to take care of it, at Cthulhu's will." Now my interest was piqued. I checked out their website and it was a site to hire a hitman. Then a thought popped up into my head. What if I hired a hitman on myself? It would be like a game of cat and mouse, and the punishment for getting caught would be, of course, death. I started packing all the belongings in my apartment that I would need, as I wouldn't be able to return until after this was all completed. I packed about a month's worth of clothes, all my electronics that I would need, all my guns and spy gear that I had bought myself, and a few other miscellaneous items like a toothbrush and shampoo. I went over to my friend's house that had an older car for sale that was registered to his name. I asked him if I could trade him cars for reasons I couldn't get into and gave him $2,000 just to keep my car in his backyard and look after it. I figured if this hitman agency was any good, they'd look at my DMV records and know what kind of car I was driving and my license plate, which would make me a lot easier to find. I also set a little note on my coffee table in the living room that said, "Tag, you're it," just to fuck with the guy and give him a little heads up that this wasn't going to be an average hit. What fun would it be if he didn't even know that this was going to be a fun little game? I went out and bought myself some new toys at the local gun store.
Tool up, homie. You in the right place.
Bought myself a new 9mm Glock, a PS90 assault rifle, and my crown jewel, a Barrett 50 cal sniper rifle. Before it got too late, I also stopped by the little spy shop again and picked up a magnetic GPS locator. You know, that kind that Walt and Hank from Breaking Bad put under Gus Fring's car to follow him. I went back to the area around my apartment, parked about 2/3 to 3/4 of a mile away to wait. No way I could stay the night there and allow that guy to get the drop on me while I was sleeping. Around 10 a.m. I watched an all-black car with dark tinted windows. I think it was a Chrysler 300. Light shut off and a man got out. He was a bigger guy, around my height, 6 foot, but way bigger muscle-wise. He came out and put something in his pocket. I'm pretty sure it was his gun. He also had something else crumpled up in his other hand. He threw it in the gutter, got back in his car, and drove off. I used the binoculars to focus in on his license plates and wrote down the number. I waited about an hour and went to go see what he threw out. Sure enough, it was the "Tag, you're it" note I left him. I went back to my car to try to catch a few hours of sleep. When I awoke, the sun was already up. It was around 8 a.m. I drove off to another one of my buddy's house who worked for the DMV to get some info from him. He wasn't there, so I went to his work to find him. After about 15 minutes, when he was in between helping people, I walked up to his counter. He was surprised to see me and greeted me with, "What's up, man?" I sat down without saying anything to him and slipped him a piece of paper with a license plate number on it. "What's this?" he asked. I just looked at him and said, "Don't ask questions. I need the info of the person who these plates belong to." "Dude, I can't give that information to you. I could get in a lot of trouble." I pulled out about $200 from my wallet and slipped it to him and said, "Please, dude, this is really important. This guy wants to kill me and I need his information. My life depends on it. Here's $200. I know you and your wife have been hurting for money." He looked at me with a really serious look and muttered under his breath, "Fuck, man." I walked back to my car and started studying the piece of paper and once again had a huge grin on my face. I now had a bunch of this guy's info in my hands. I knew who I was dealing with. I'm not disclosing the man's name due to concerns for myself and his family, so we'll just refer to him as Mike. Mike was 35 years old and was registered to an address in Arizona. Like I thought, it was a black Chrysler 300. I need to get back to my hotel and start planning some stuff. So I decided I needed to test his abilities a bit. I went a few miles away to an old Motel 6. I walked in and a nice older man was running the front desk. I walked up to him and asked if I could book a room. He said yes, that would be fine, so I paid with my debit card. I also handed him an envelope and told him if he saw a man wearing a suit about my height asking for anybody to hand this envelope to him. He stuttered a bit, trying to get out that he doesn't do that type of thing, but his attitude changed real quick when I pulled out a $100 bill and handed it to him. "Oh, of course, sir. If he comes in, I'll give it to him." I then went about another 5 miles away to another Motel 6 and paid for a room with my debit card again. I handed this lady another envelope and pulled out $100 and described Mike to her. "If he comes in here, just hand him the envelope and he'll leave." She handed me my room key and I left. I then went across the street to a bit nicer motel and booked a room with cash. The room was on the second story and I had a clear view of the Motel 6 across the street. You might be wondering what was in the envelopes and why I booked 3 rooms. Well, first off, I needed to see if they were monitoring my bank accounts, and secondly, I wanted to see what his reaction would be when he finally realized that I led him to 2 dead ends. The envelopes were just 2 pieces of paper. The first one said, "Try again," and the second one said, "So close, yet so far away. Now to just wait." About 2 hours later, wouldn't you know it, the black car pulled up into the parking lot. As it sat there, I looked at the GPS tracker I had bought a few days prior, and I knew I had an opportunity to put it on his car so I could track him. The only problem was if I even attempted to get close to his car, he'd know I was there and might even start shooting at me. I saw a couple of teenagers on bikes fucking around in the parking lot of the motel I was in. Went downstairs trying to face away from Mike's car the whole time. I walked up to a soda machine that was downstairs and yelled at the kids to come over to where I was while waving a $100 bill in the air. After looking at each other, they came over to me and asked what I wanted. I pulled the GPS tracker out of my pocket and told them if they wanted to make a quick buck, all they had to do was wait for the man in the black car across the street to get out and walk into the lobby of the motel and hide it underneath the bumper somewhere where he would have a hard time finding it. If you kids just run off with my GPS locator and my $100, I will find each of you and kill you and your families. I'm not the type of guy you want to fuck with. Got it? They slowly turned back around and rode off across the street, not knowing what I had just said was just a bluff. About a minute later, I saw Mike leaving the motel lobby. He opened the envelope, read the paper, and then crumpled it up and threw it on the ground. He then got out his phone and called someone while walking to his car. He got in and left after putting the phone back into his pocket. I had another grin on my face, knowing I was slowly winning the game. Watched the little red dot slowly get further and further away. About an hour later, I decided to go check up on what Mike was up to, hoping to find the location of where he was staying. I drove to the area where the GPS locator was stopped at. I parked about a half-mile away and started walking to his location. It was a little parking lot for a Mexican food restaurant, but as I scanned the parking lot, his car wasn't there. I walked up to the front of the restaurant and could see by the entrance there was a little manila envelope. I walked up to it and opened it. All that was inside was my GPS locator and a note that said, "Tag, now you're it." My smile and thoughts were cut short as a little hole exploded out of the pillar I was standing by. As I ducked behind the pillar, another hole was created in the brick wall that was now in front of me. Fuck, he's shooting at me. Fuck, I had no choice but to run. Ducked behind a big metal dumpster. I chambered around, popped out a bit, and shot twice at him. I need to get the fuck out of here before the cops show up. I ran and ran as fast as I could back to my car, trying my best to make sure he didn't follow me. As I got in and took off, I looked back to see Mike running around the corner, looking around, trying to find me. For a guy of his size in a suit, he was sure is pretty damn fast. I then hit a red light with a few cars around me, and I could still see him running in my direction, trying to look for me. I could tell he didn't know what kind of car I was in by the way he was frantically looking around. He kept getting closer and closer until finally he was right beside me, on the other side of the street. The only thing that was between us was another car in the left lane. Come the fuck on, light. Turn fucking green. I was fucking hysterical at this point. The man that was trying to kill me was about 15 feet away, and all he had to do was look hard enough through my tinted windows and he'd know that it was me. The light turned green and I fucking gunned it. I collapsed on the bed, exhausted as the adrenaline wore off. About 15 minutes had passed as I lay on my bed contemplating everything, and I got a phone call. I looked at my phone and it was a number that I didn't recognize from a 480 area code. I answered. "Well, hello there. You left so soon we didn't even get to play." "Who is this?" I asked like a dumbass. I knew who it was. "Don't worry about who I am. It's yourself that you need to worry about." I started laughing. "Oh, Mike, my buddy, it's you. I don't think... How do you know my name?" He snapped. "You shouldn't interrupt people while they're talking, Mike. It's quite rude. As I was saying, I don't think I need to worry about myself too much. I'm it now, though, so I'll be seeing you soon," I said. A few seconds of silence followed. It sounded like he was in a car. "You'll be seeing me sooner than you think," and then he hung up. I don't know what he meant by that, but I needed to get the fuck out of this hotel and into a new one. I wrote down the number he called me on, and I packed all my stuff up and got out of there as quickly as I could. As I was leaving, all I could think of was how the fuck did he get my number? As I was driving away, I saw his car pull into the motel parking lot I was just at. I wanted to see if Mike would somehow be able to find me with no card activity or cell phone at his disposal, so I waited. A day passed by, then 2, then 3. After about a week and 3 hotels later, I figured he was only able to track me when I used my card and slipped up somehow like anyone who doesn't know a hitman is following him would do. Unless he was watching and studying me the whole time, which I doubt he was doing. By the end of the week of sleepless nights and constantly looking over my shoulder, I was almost completely out of cash on hand. I knew I needed to hit a bank or an ATM, but as soon as I withdrew some cash from my account, they would know I did, and the location I got it from. After a bit of thinking about this, I figured I could usually use this to my advantage. So I set out to surprise little old Mike. After all, a week prior he set me up, so I figured it was time to return the favor. I traveled about 30 minutes to the very outskirts of Northwest Las Vegas. I found an area that seemed perfect. My bank on one side of the street and a desert with lots of boulders and Joshua trees on the other side. As I was surveying the area on one of the corners near the bank, I saw an ATV with a for sale sign on it. I went to the door and rung the bell. A nice, typical suburban dad answered the door with a little girl right behind him hugging his leg and looking up at me. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Yeah, I actually saw that you had a Yamaha ATV for sale and I was wondering how much it was." He told me it was $1,500 and I told him that I was interested. We shot the shit for a while and he told me about his family and that they just had another girl, so he had not the time or money to keep this thing around. "My time of fun and fucking around is on hold for the moment, I guess," he said, laughing a bit. I laughed back, and while I was looking at him, I kind of envied him. If I had a girl I loved a lot and some little ones that meant the world to me, I wouldn't be doing what I was currently doing. But that's neither here nor there. Sorry, I'm rambling. I told him that I was interested in getting it now and asked if it was okay if I ran to the bank to grab some cash. He told me that that was fine and he would be waiting outside. I got to the bank, and as I was about to put my card into the machine, a thought grabbed my attention. As soon as you pull out this money, you're going to be on a time slot until Mike comes in and checks the area. I mentally prepared myself and pulled out the cash. It was time for us to meet again. This time, on my terms. I ran back to the man's house with the ATV and he was outside checking everything out on it. I handed him the cash and thanked him for the time and wished him luck on his newborn. I got in my car and told him I was going to park it around the corner at the nearby park and come back for the ATV, as I was going to be riding it today. He said that was fine and I took off. As soon as I parked at the park, I literally ran back to his house and hopped on the ATV. I had just pulled out the cash and I knew Mike couldn't possibly be on his way already, but something inside me knew that I couldn't involve this nice gentleman that I had just bought this thing from. I wouldn't put it past Mike to break into their house and kill everyone in there just to get a hint of my location. I drove the ATV back to the park and I parked it right behind my car. I eventually got about 400-500 yards out into the desert across from the bank. The sun started to set behind the mountains and I got set up and parked my ATV behind a large boulder. When it got completely dark, I got on top of the boulder and I flipped the cap to my scope on my P90 off and looked through it. I could see the bank dimly lit inside as well as the parking lot. Around 11 o'clock or so, I finally saw his black car pull up. He drove around the bank once and then parked in front of it. I immediately noticed that his plates weren't on the car, which struck me as odd. He got out and walked up to the ATM and had something in his hand with wires attached to it. He put it in the machine and turned his back to me. Perfect. I flipped my safety off and took the shot. Boom. Center mass. He fell into the machine and pulled out his gun. How the fuck is he even moving? I shot him right through the fucking back. He ran and ducked behind his car. I aimed for his tires. Boom. Back right tire. Gone. Boom. Back left tire. Gone. At this point he knew the direction I was shooting from and he popped his head out. He shot twice in my direction, but he couldn't see me in the darkness. He put it into reverse with the back rims grinding against the pavement. Then the car flipped around with the headlights pointing towards me. He gunned the car across the road and started hauling dick towards me. I saw the driver's side door open and him bail out. I shot once at him, but missed. As soon as I took the shot, I jumped off the boulder right by my ATV. About 2 or 3 seconds after I did, I heard a huge explosion and saw a gigantic flash of light envelop the dark desert. I knew I couldn't just leave the ATV out in the open for the cops to find, so I found some bushes on the edge of the park. I took some wet wipes I had in my backpack and wiped off the handlebars and a few other spots where I thought my prints would be. I ran as quickly as I could after hiding the ATV and got into my car. As I rounded the boulder, I saw Mike's car engulfed in flames. I flew past it, searching for him with my 9mm out. He was nowhere in sight. I gunned it to the bank and ran up to the ATM he was just at. The weird electronic device with wires hanging out of it was still stuck in it. I grabbed it and took off. I guess he forgot it in all the commotion. The next day I switched motels and chilled out. I took another few days to chill out and recoup from everything that happened. On the third day in this new hotel, I knew I needed to get to the end of this game. I pulled the device that I had just gotten out of my pocket and started doing some research. I didn't find much on the outer web, but on the darknet I found some similar devices. They were apparently for hacking into ATMs and pulling money out of people's accounts. I checked my bank account and saw several $1,000s missing from my account. All of the transactions were in $1,000 increments, one day after another. It blew my mind. They were taking money slowly out of my account in order to bankrupt me to slow me down. This just pissed me off more than anything. You weren't playing this game very fairly, Mike. Whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. I headed out to walk the strip for a bit. It was so crowded and crawling with cops, I knew even Mike wasn't going to take the chance trying to shoot me here. Technically, Mike was it now, and I figured he was a bit pissed that I caught him by surprise. Oh, and on top of that, he destroyed his car to get away from me, and he probably had to walk for hours and hours back to his hotel, or call a taxi. It made me smile that I put him through all of that. It dawned on me that I wouldn't know what vehicle he was in now, which made my life a lot harder. He could be in any vehicle at any time, which sucked. I saw something that shocked me to my very core. There was Mike. Holy fucking shit. Out of all the people in this whole fucking city, there's the one person that I was looking for right in front of me. He hadn't noticed me at all, so I started trailing behind him on the other side of the street. Kept watching him, always a few feet behind so he wouldn't see me. He eventually made his way to that hotel. And walked in. I waited about a minute and I walked in. Just as I had, I saw him make his way to the room elevators. No fucking way, I knew where he was staying. It was a 1 in a million, but something out there gave me a break and put him right in front of me. I walked up to the lobby receptionist and gave her some bullshit story about how me and my buddy got separated and I needed his room number to check if he was there. She asked for his first and last name, and I gave it to her. She typed some things into her computer and gave me a room number. I couldn't have gotten more lucky. The more I thought about it, the more sense it made. I took out one of my spare manila envelopes. I put the ATM hacker gizmo in it and a note that said, Red Rock Canyon, 6 p.m. 2 days from now. Take Scenic Loop Drive to White Rock Mountain Road and turn right. Keep driving until the road turns to dirt and keep going some more. You'll see an older car parked on the side of the road. I'll be waiting. You're it. I arrived around 11 p.m. I told Mike to meet me out at the Red Rock in 2 days from when I left him the note. I figured he was going to take the day in between to check out the place for advantages and disadvantages, cover, terrain, and which spots would offer the greatest advantage over the other, i.e. high ground with lots of cover. I had already done this the week before, and I luckily have spent my fair share of time in the area hiking along just to get out of the city, even if it was just for a moment. You'd be surprised at how much more you can take in when you hike alone and don't have any distractions. I knew this particular area well, almost like the back of my hand. Mike didn't, so I had a few ideas on where to lay a trap for him if he decided to come the next day and do some scouting. Around 2:30 to 3 a.m. I heard a car coming down the dirt road toward me. I was a little curious as no one is usually out here at this time of night. I waited for a minute, and after being stopped at the area for a minute, someone got out of the car, and holy shit, it was Mike. I waited for him to drop his guard and look around a bit, and then I took a shot. Missed by a bit. Holy shit, how dumb could I be? I didn't reset the scope after cleaning the gun. Fucking details, man. So I went to another perch point and reset the scope, and then I added a bit of other things into the equation like distance and angle, and everything checked out. He slowly inched his way into my scope and lined up a second shot. Boom. The bullet blew his fucking leg completely off his body from the knee down. And that's all how this should have ended, but I'm sorry to say that it hasn't. Mike and I met for the last time at Red Rock Canyon about 6 days ago, and ever since then some really weird shit has been going on. I really don't know for sure if they're all connected. It's obvious that some of these occurrences do, and the pieces that are fitting together are constantly leading back to one thing: the organization I originally hired. But my mind is trying to make everything that has happened to me from the past 6 days, all of them fit together. All I know is ever since Mike and I finished our game of tag, my life has gotten turned completely upside down. Enemies are everywhere, and worst yet, I don't even know who they are, what they like, and what they want from me. I can't trust anybody except for people I knew before I started this game. And in a city with this many people, I don't have a whole lot of options. I saw a man in a suit standing across the street, just staring at me. I went inside, freaking out, and checked out the window every couple minutes to see if he was still there. I went to my computer and opened it up to look at a good bar to get fucked up at. Another command bar was open and it said, "We need to talk. Sunset Park, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Go to the southeast corner, come alone. If you pull anything, you will be shot." Oh well, I'll see what they want. And I'm gonna go get shit-faced and have a good time. Goodbye, everyone.